welcome to Pitfall. Today we're talking about landmine probes. Landmine probes are an integral part of demining, and I feel like we don't talk about it nearly enough than we should. Landmines are one of the biggest problems right now. If we look at the terrain in the war in Ukraine, there's thousands and thousands of mines scattered everywhere, and at some point during the war, but also after, they have to get demined. We have to get rid of them all. And one way to detect these mines is a mine probe. So what is the mine probe? How do we use it? Let's get into that first, and then we'll talk about why the ones used in Ukraine by the Russian forces, by the Ukrainian forces, are a lot better. They're still simple, and that's okay, but they're a lot better than what I have seen so far in the West. And we could learn from that, and we should learn from that. So let's just get into it. Right, so we have a mine probe. This is a very simple, basically a metal rod, a pointy metal rod, and a handle, right? Now, what do we use this for? Like I said, we do it for detecting landmines. Let's say we have a landmine right here. This is a, I guess the top of a PMN2 anti-personnel mine, one of the most common mines used by Russian forces, used by Ukrainian forces. So a relevant piece. There's multiple ways of detecting mines. Obviously, you have a metal detector with you. A lot of the times you do. And there's mines that do have a metal in them. They're easy to detect. There's mines that do not have a lot, or maybe don't even have any metal in them. That are very difficult to detect with your metal detector. Regardless, in both situations, you will probably be using your probe as well. So how would it go with, example, a mine that has metallic pieces in it? You would be looking with your metal detector, and once you have a signal that that's big enough, you think it might be a landmine, right? You put down your markings where you have found it, and then you use your probe to gently feel in the ground and feel out if you are correct or not. Sometimes it could be a can of Coke, it could be a bullet casing. There can be a lot of stuff that gives you a fluke or a signal when it's not a landmine. And then if you end up marking a million things when you're not super sure if it is a landmine or not, it can end up like a big waste of time and material. So you want to feel the mine. We always do this in a 30-degree angle. That has a very specific reason. You're obviously probing from above the ground. This thing is probably still buried, and we don't want to activate the pressure sensitive fuse, right? So if we prod it from too high, you might end up activating it, which is not that great. And from a 30-degree angle, if you end up touching the pressure plate, then you might still not activate it, right? This angle is going to be important in a second or later in this video, so keep that in mind. And that's the basics of detecting landmines with your probe. Now, as we talked about this is a very simple little probe. The only thing that's a little annoying with this one is that, first of all, this thing is entirely from a magnetic type of steel, and because it's fixed, we can't make it longer, we can't make it shorter. If I need a longer probe for some reason, I'll have to carry more probes with me. Not only that, what I just said with the feeling out, that is the basic, right? There are landmines that have magnetic influence fuses, which means if a magnetic metal gets close to it, it could set off the mine already, which renders this absolutely useless. And there are also booby-trapped elements nowadays that react to the fact that electricity can go through my steel, right? Something you see sometimes that I've heard of is the usage of aluminum foil, 2 layers of aluminum foil. In between there is earth, and then it's covered, with whatever from the terrain, which is linked to a detonator, a battery, and then an external explosive device, could be a landmine, could be whatever you want it to be. And if you are doing your demining drill, you're using your metal detector, all right, you can hear the foil, all right, that might be a landmine. You stick your probe in, and because you pierce the 2 layers of foil, you actually make the electrical circuit full circle, and it could set off another explosive. So using a metal probe, magnetic or not, cannot always be ideal, right? What other probes have I seen so far? We have the NMA probe or Prodder by ABP Technologies. What's interesting about this one, it's a little bit better. It is a non-magnetic metal, a non-ferro metal used, and it has extendable segments you can screw on to make your handle longer, right? If there is a lot of vegetation, if it's a hard to reach location, you might want to use a longer probe, and they give you that option. The only problem you have with these types is, again, it's great that the probe itself is non-magnetic, but it's still from a metal, a conductive metal, and that can be an issue. The handle itself they have designed, it's kind of like a pistol grip, and it's really uncomfortable to use. If you're laying on the ground and you are feeling out your mine, you have to hold your probe, like I said, in a 30-degree angle, and because of the way the handle is built, it's very uncomfortable to actually do it. It can really strain your wrist after a while, and if you are probing the entire way, it can take up to hours, it can take up to days, and that is just really not fun to be doing with a handle that's really not made for you. A lot of times what we do is we screw out the handle, and we just use the loose probe as the probe, because the handle is really not that great. What's nice about it, like I said, is that you can indeed elongate it or make it shorter. But we still have the problem of the probe. The probe's just not good enough for every single condition. And of course, you can't always have a jack of all trades, but we want to be prepared as much as we can. And the probe itself is quite big, it's quite long. So if you're already carrying a lot of stuff as a sapper, as an engineer, it's maybe not the best to carry around, right? Then what are the next options? The next options are, and this is something I see the Western market do a lot, which I haven't seen Ukrainian or Russian companies do, is to make it as compact as possible. Yes, it is nice to have a compact kit. However, the way they make these kits is a little, it's just not that great. And we'll just get into it. So one example is, I think this one is from the British military. It's a compact British military mining probe, and it consists from a plastic handle, and then the probe itself is segmented, right? So you can screw on a piece of the probe, and that way you can choose how many segments you put on, and you can make it longer or shorter. When you first hear this, it sounds like a fun or a good idea, but when you put it to use, it's really not that great. These compact kits are quite terrible. The problem you have with it is that if you're looking for a mine, you are looking for a, they're not super deep in the ground. So your probe doesn't have to be very long, right? And what you get is, if you have quite a long probe, which has these hollow screw-on segmented bits, is that if you mishandle it, it could break at those segments. And you really don't want that. Not only that, because it is a screw type, you can get sand in there, you can get grime in there, it can be hard to take apart again if you need to. And you risk breaking it. It's quite fragile. I've seen a couple of them broken already, And then you also end up with the fact that it is again all metal, which is just not optimal for all situations. So you're stuck with this probe that's only useful for the most basic of settings, and is also prone to breaking quicker. If you want a longer probe, a better way to do it would be to have your probe itself a fixed size and elongate the handle. If you elongate the handle, you can still hold it in different ways. You could hold it a bit more at the back. If you want it to be shorter anyway, you can still hold it more up front instead of having to hold the elongated probe, which is just not comfortable to work at. What are the other options? So we have a Fox Knives Military Division compact mine probe kit, and there's also a Gerber mine probe kit. Now these are the more, I want to say, expensive, high-end of the spectrum, and I still think they're all pretty bad. The Fox Knives Military Division, if you don't know, it's a sub-brand by Fox Knives. And Fox Knives, they make, as you can hear it in the name, they make knives. I'm not a big fan of Fox Knives. Every knife I have owned from Fox Knives was absolutely terrible. And so I feel like this brand is kind of just a cheaper, maybe rip-off alternative for the Gerber kit. The Gerber kit and the Fox Knives kit are very similar. And they also all have those segmented probe parts. The only difference now is that they have added different tips. You can screw on a different tip. There are multiple metal tips, and there are also plastic tips. And even though this maybe, again, from the start sounds like, all right, they have the plastic tip. In the example I gave you, where you have to pierce the 2 sheets of tinfoil, if only my tip is plastic and the rest is metal, it will still activate the booby trap or the explosive or anything. So that making only the tip plastic doesn't solve the issue. It solves absolutely nothing. Not only that, these are expensive. The Fox Knives Military Division one is 163 euros, which is $165. And then the Gerber Mine Probe Kit is 387.95 euros, or roughly 449 USD. So that's almost $450 for a probe that tells you can do specific things with it, because they do include the tip, the plastic tip, but it will still end up being fatal because the tip is pretty useless. And paying so much money for a thing that has the segmented parts, elongates also at the probe, not at the handle, the tips that are useless, it's just not a very good thing to have. Yes, it's small and that might be nice, but it's still pretty terrible. So, all right, what do the Ukrainians use? What do the Russians use? And they use this. And this thing is pretty fantastic, guys. It might not be the exact model used by Russian forces, by Ukrainian forces, but this is bought from a Ukrainian store, sent through Ukraine, and every single one I have seen used by military forces are alternatives to this idea. So the concept is exactly the same. All right, what do I have? I have a handle, all right? This handle has a screw-on tip, right? It can screw it on, screw it off. Now, some of these, like the ones from UTP Market, are long enough that these hold your probes, right? So if you want to have it compact, that's great because your probes fit into them. This one is a little shorter, so my probes don't fit in here. But let me screw this off and show you what's going on. I end up with this little hole and this tip. All right, what do they offer you? Bunch of different probes, right? There's brass, there's a metal probe, and there's, I think these are resin. They're called them dielectric probes. Why? Because these are not conductive. So these are perfect for if we need to feel stuff out in that specific situation. How do you attach these? It's super simple, right? You have these holes. You're gonna put it straight through. like so. And I just screw it on, it tightens it, and I have my probe. I'm not going to screw it on entirely because I want to show you something else, but that's it. It's that simple. If anything breaks, it's probably going to be the probe, which is easily replaced, right? It's not a segment that you break one segment, you have to replace the entire kit or whatever. Just the probes. You can have a gazillion of these, mass produced, very simple. What else do they have? Angles. Like I said before, you have to work in a 30-degree angle. So they give you the option to do so. As you can see, there's a second hole there. If I put it through there, and I will, screw back on, and I have a more comfortable 30-degree angle, right? Very simple, super easy to do. These are strong, thick metal parts, so yes, there is a screw, but this failing is a much, much smaller chance than the segments of your probes failing, which is great. Do you want to elongate it? You can. These are metal, they have them from other materials as well. I can put this in between, on there. The tip goes on the other side. I can make my probe a lot longer, if I want to hold it here or wherever I want to hold it, it's still going to be way more comfortable than having to hold a elongated probe somewhere where it's not just that great to use, right? Like I said, in Ukraine right now, there's a lot of very tall and high vegetation. So a lot of times the sappers there end up probing, feeling stuff out while they're just standing, right? Instead of laying down, going in the prone position or kneeling down and feeling stuff out, they just stay standing. It's much faster, maybe a little less controlled, but then again, they have to do the real work and they don't have the time because of the drone strikes, artillery strikes, whatever, they have to be quick. Do it standing. What's really nice about this angle is that if you do it standing, you can hold it comfortably and it'll easily go in the ground in that angle. And as you see, my probe is still pretty straight, so I can hold it quite comfortably standing. If it was only straight and I would have to do it standing, I would have to lower myself and then probe like that with a super long probe, really not comfortable. So this angle is really useful, right? It's just a lot better. What do these cost? With all the longer bits, $90. $90. Not 400, not 200, they're 90, right? Super easy to make. Very good in the hand. Lots of options. Lots of choices to have. And if you have the type where the probe fits back into the in the handle, it's still quite compact, right? If you only have that on you. So I think we should learn from this. I think the idea is that we have to look more into mine probes, right? And it shows that Ukrainians, the Russians, or anyone on that side who's been working with these way longer have a much better idea on how to utilize them properly, right? It's cheap, it's efficient, easily replaced, more comfortable, and I want to leave it at that. The link for this specific one will be in the description, so if you want to check them out, like I said, there's millions on the market, all from Ukraine or Russia. Then again, they have a hard time shipping military items outside of their countries. So give me your opinions. If you are a sapper from Europe, from America, and I'm completely wrong, or you have probes that I've never seen before, tell me about it. I'm really interested. We could really learn from this and taking this design into our militaries can really save lives. It can really make a difference. Thank you guys for watching. This was Pitfall. See you next time.